This video is going to be a tank tier list for Phase 2 of Season of Discovery. My name's Jurpi, and if you are interested in this kind of content, be sure you subscribe. I will be making a healer tier list after this, as well as a DPS one. Before we get into this video, I would like to say that this is my opinion and personal experience with these tanks, as well as just digging through logs and doing some research to see how well they're performing. By now, most of the buffs and debuffs have went out, and enough gear has went out to these classes to show how strong they are versus each other. I'm going to rank them in 3 different categories. One is going to be how tanky they are, how much threat they do. The second being how much damage they bring to the table, and the third category being what buffs and debuffs they bring to the raid, as well as just general raid utility. Alright, let's get into this. Let's do Rogue. Rogue is very interesting. It's not a bad tank. It's just lacking compared to all the other tanks. It doesn't have very good AoE. It only has Blade Flurry every 2 minutes, so yeah, good luck with that. It's just lacking in threat too. Whenever I had a Rogue tank, we didn't have a Shaman for Spirit of the Alpha, and we're obviously Horde side, so we didn't have Blessing of Salve, so everyone's noticed immediately the threat difference compared to every other tank. So other than that, it's really just threat. They're completely tanky. Their AoE threat is a little bad compared to the others, but in terms of damage, they do pretty solid damage in comparison to like Feral Druid. Feral Druid and Warrior are probably down here. They don't do that much damage, but they do bring more buffs and threat to the raid. They do bring, I should mention, they do bring exposed armor, but that kind of doesn't matter when Homunculus is in the game, so yeah, not much more to say to that. I'll just leave it here for now, and I'll adjust it as we go. Let's see, what do we do next? Let's do Warlock. Warlock is by far like one of the best tanks in the game. They bring Curse of Wreck, they bring Curse of Elements, they have insane AoE threat. They bring soul stones, they bring health stones, they can summon people to the raid. I guess we shouldn't really count that as a buff or debuff. It's just like a convenience. They also have an imp they can summon to increase the stamina of their party. They're the second highest damaging tank at the moment. Yeah, there's not much more to say than that. Their threat is much better than the rogue, so I have to put them higher. They bring more buffs than the rogue, I have to put them higher. Yeah, not much more to say than that. The Warlock is insane. Let's move on to the Paladin. I would have to put the Paladin somewhere between these two, because I feel like they're better than the Rogue, but they're not better than the Warlock. You have all your blessings, of course, so Blessing of Salve instantly makes you a better tank than the Rogue without any kind of like threat reduction or increases like Spirit of the Alpha. They're very tanky, and they're tanky enough to be just playing Ret right now. A lot of the logs I dug through, they're just playing two-handed Ret, so Seal of Command is on the table by that, so they could just have two-hand tank the entire time, outside of maybe like the Menagerie fight. If you're taking too much damage, you might have to throw a shield on there. You don't bring too many like special buffs like Divine Sack or anything like that, because you lose a lot of your tank runes by doing that. But yeah, in terms of damage, they do great damage. They do better damage than the Rogue on some fights. Some fights the Rogue is insane, but I guess you're comparing it when Rogue has all their CDs up. But yeah, I'd put them here. The Prot Warrior. I think they go here. Yeah, I think they go above the Rogue. They are definitely doing less damage than the Rogue, but they are much more tanky. They have much better threat, especially with their Thunderclap rune, being able to use that in defensive stance and hit multiple targets. That is so much better than a Rogue's AoE threat. Single target, they do just fine. It's probably about even with Rogue, I feel like, at this moment. I've seen them do insane things on Horde side because of Spirit of the Alpha. It kind of just invalidates everything by having a Resto Shaman or a Enhanced Shaman in the group. Having Spirit of the Alpha or having a Paladin with Salve, it just completely changes the whole tier list, I feel like. So it's really hard to say where this goes. Yeah, they have Shield Wall. They have some really good defensives like Last Stand as well. They do bring Commanding Shout for some extra stamina, as well as they have another defensive now known as Enrage Regeneration. It's 30% of your health for 10 seconds. It's very, very good, as well as they have Intervene now. So those are definitely worth mentioning, but I don't think it puts them above, Paladin. You get Battle Shout. I guess that's worth mentioning, but kind of doesn't matter if you have a Paladin on Alliance side. You're just going to get Blessing of Might. So I think this is fine putting them here. They're a bit better than Rogue, but they're not as good as a Paladin, I feel like. Let's see. Feral Druid. I think Feral Druid goes here. They're definitely better than these two, but I don't think they're better than a Demo Lock. I mean, they have really good AoE threat using Mangle spam with Berserk. That's really incredible. It's insane snap threat. Let's see. They do have a Last Stand now. They do have Shield Bash and Bash, so they have 2 types of interrupts now. They bring a ton of buffs to the raid. They bring Leader of the Pack. They bring Fairy Fire. They bring Innervates. They bring Battle Res. And they bring Wind Fury, of course. That's actually probably the biggest one, considering how bad Feral Druid is right now. Having a tank bring the Wind Fury is actually just arguably as good. And on Alliance side, you don't have Shaman, so you have no other way to get Wind Fury outside of having a Feral Druid. In terms of damage, I think they're actually like here. I think they actually do the least amount of damage compared to all these other tanks. I kind of have to put them above Warrior and Rogue because of how tanky they are and how much more threat they're doing over these 2 classes, as well as the buffs they bring. Okay, so lastly, we're going to do the Enhanced Shaman. The Enhanced Shaman, it brings totems. You can off-heal with Maelstrom procs. You bring Curse of Elements with the Abyss Weapon. They're pretty much always going to be using this, as long as they have it, of course. It is 20-second buff, so it's not permanent like Curse of Elements, I'm sorry. But it is up about 80 to 90% of the time. So it's like having a Warlock in your raid when you might not have one. Or you only have one, and you're getting Curse of Wreck instead. That's just, that's all there is to it, really. They're the highest damage, they're the highest AoE threat at the moment. They do insane on overall, and if you have a Resto Shaman in your raid as well, they pretty much never because you'll have Sham Rage from it, which is, I feel like it's a bit overtuned at the moment. So I wouldn't doubt it if you see Shaman go down a tier in the future because of maybe just some future buffs and tweaks to the class. But that's pretty much it. So in conclusion, this is pretty much the tier list on top of like all the buffs they bring, the damage that they're doing, and how good of a tank they are. Any tank you bring to the raid right now, you will probably clear the entire raid. It really isn't that difficult to tank with some of these non-meta picks. I've cleared the raid with every single one of these tanks outside of a Paladin because I am playing Horde, so I can't really speak for that as much, so maybe this is the one that I got wrong. But yeah, I would love to hear what you guys thought about this list. If you liked the video, be sure to subscribe. It helps out my channel so much. Let me know what you think. Tell me if I got something wrong, if I'm completely clueless. I would love to have some kind of discussion going, and let's just talk about it. Come on, don't be so hostile in the comments. Let's just talk about it, right? It's a game, it's a tier list, it's for fun, all right? And of course, I will see you guys in the next one.